of different solutions, so we picked one. And now the convergent thinking style. So with all those ideas now, what do? It's impossible to action all of them, okay? But perhaps we can find ways of how we can get started, which is a very important thing, because otherwise some people would think this is all too much for me. This is all overwhelming. And our idea is to make things as manageable so that you can action one activity at a time. So it is now important to prioritize your ideas. So when you look back at the list, okay, which we will do shortly, you need to look at it and see two things, two aspects. One is twin the ideas. So some similar ideas can be grouped together, okay, or categorized, let's say administration, activities, and so on. Step two is prioritize. So which idea would you like to take forward? Okay, so in this case, what we will do is, I'll stop sharing and I will go back to my document and share that one again. Okay, so now the convergent thinking phase. Okay, so I like to refer to this like a funnel. Now, if you have a bucket of water and you pour it out, there's too much water coming out at the same time. Whereas if you use a funnel, you can still have the same volume of water, but it comes out in a more, let's say, manageable way. And that's what we're going to try and do here. So I would like you to look at the list and we're going to try and prioritize. So first we twin. If there are ideas that can go together, we will put them in the same category. Okay, so let's do that together. Okay. So to create a friendly environment, to propose semi-open tasks to be developed in a collaborative group, add the physical movement to this task, meeting outside the rooms, voluntary activities. If you have suggestions of what you would twin, please feel free and come forward, because this list is something I'm looking at for the first time, like you. So define together the group creativity that, okay, let them get bored. Look at it, look at it. So many thanks. Okay, thank you, Lois. It's been lovely having you. Thank you. So for example, we could have create visual thinking. They're not necessarily identical, but perhaps they can go together, because when you brainstorm, you can write the points. So we're going to twin things, ideas that are related, that are similar in nature. Okay. Visualize a problem in different environments. So here you might say that some will overlap. I could possibly think of friendly environment with meetings outside the school, you know. Cultural events. Okay, so this could also fit in this category. Then you have some administrative ideas. Group in different roles, different group, assign different group roles. From an admin point of view, so how you manage things, you could also let them get bored. Give time to think. This is all like operationalize, or giving it some sense of life. Okay. So you could keep going at this. So do you see how the list starts to look different now? Okay. And perhaps what we can do is, let's say the easiest one, for example, would be, okay, so to create a friendly environment, meetings outside the school, and organize cultural events. So this could be convergent stage. Okay. So setting friendly, and may I add safe environment safe to learn. Okay, where learning can take place in real life contexts. Okay, outside the formal learning environment. What I try to do with this statement here, impromptu, I try to encapsulate these three statements. Do you agree? Or do you have any comments? Okay. So when you're at the stage, you have, setting a friendly, safe environment where learning can take place in real-life context outside the formal learning environment. So we look back, okay, and this is our result from we identified the problem, the school environment, we made a list of what we assume, and we said that we would like to work on motivation, emotions, and relationships, okay? So this is how we can work on motivation, emotions, and relationships by setting a friendly and safe environment, and at the same time, learning can take place in real-life contexts. So we have switched the problem, we turned things around, and it became a new opportunity. So here, we started off the thinking process. If you have the luxury of time, what you can do then is an action plan. So, okay, if this is what we're going to do, how can we make it happen? How can we make it real? Because very often, ideas remain unused because we leave them at that little statement that we came up with. Okay, so to create a safe environment and you know, if you leave it at that, it would be like having a consultant give you a report that you put on a shelf and you never read. So ideally, if you then work in a group or individually, you'd say, okay, if I had to action this, how do I get started? But that would be a conversation perhaps for another time, because it would be a different thinking session, okay? But now what I would like to do is I'd like to share my screen one last time to start bringing our session to a close. So essentially, what we did this morning, we tried to look at things differently. Okay, and we realized that creativity is a skill that can be learned, okay, and it's not difficult. The trick with creativity is that you need to make the time for it, okay, at the beginning, because then the more you practice, it becomes kind of normal. It is important to identify a problem statement because otherwise you would not have a focus. So you will not be able to direct your attention to a problem. And it is also important to make the time for thinking and to focus on the function of the technique used, okay? And as well, to suspend judgment. So don't criticize your ideas. All ideas are good and valid because after the thinking session, after that little brainstorming session, if you want, that we did, where you put down the ideas, you can then fine-tune them, correct and rearrange. But try not to engage in discussion when you're brainstorming, so when you're coming up with the ideas, because otherwise you would stop the flow. Okay, and with that, I would like to thank you for your time this morning. I hope that you found this presentation interesting and that hopefully you will put these to good use. Okay, I don't know if you have